What's going on, my fellow A-Plusers? Welcome back once again. It is I, your host, Adam Perez, here with a Black Lightning review, ladies and gentlemen. That's right, we will be reviewing Season 4 of Black Lightning. Unfortunately, it's final season, but we're here, ladies and gentlemen, and you know who else is here? Black Lightning, because Black Lightning is back, baby, here for its 4th season. Now, listen, for those of you who aren't familiar with myself when it comes to reviewing Black Lightning reviews, on our previous YouTube page, A-Plus Opinions, we actually did do reviews for all previous 3 seasons of Black Lightning. We actually really built ourselves up a fantastic following, people that followed us on a regular basis. So a part of me is keeping my fingers crossed that we do get some very familiar faces from my previous YouTube channel over here to certainly jump on board, because I really would love to just wrap up this entire season with everybody, honestly. And I kind of wish that we had some of that previous Black Lightning content on our new YouTube page here in A-Plus Hero Report. But regardless, guys, you're coming to a fantastic place for your Black Lightning reviews. We love to go ahead and break down this show. This is actually one of my favorite DC television shows, easily I feel like the most consistent that we've had 3 seasons in a row. And honestly, if we take into account the season premiere that we just had for season 4, it looks like we're gonna have ourselves a pretty good damn season to go ahead and bow out on as well. So I'm super pumped, guys. I'm super pumped to go ahead and get into this season with you guys. For those of you who don't know how I like to do my particular reviews, I like to dive deep in regards to some stuff, right? We like to really break down a lot of the characters and the storylines that we're certainly talking about, whether it be theorizing, speculating along the way. We definitely will be getting into the nitty-gritty. Now, I always give this warning at the beginning of my reviews for seasons and at the ends. When it comes to season premieres, they tend to be a little bit longer, my reviews, simply because of the fact that I like to tackle all the main characters that we certainly have to focus on and really just catch up with them, because clearly, especially when it comes to Black Lightning, there is a time jump. I believe they said about a year or so. We actually get the opportunity to see very early on in the intro here, Jefferson Pierce still mourning the death of his best friend in Henderson. We see him at the grave. On the gravestone, it does in fact say February 8th of 2020. They even highlight the idea of it being a year, kind of celebrating a year since the Markovians were pushed out of Freeland as well. So definitely a lot has certainly changed, and our characters definitely do find themselves in significant different places than where they certainly were where we left them at last season. So I'm really eager to go ahead and dive into this with you guys here. So let's go ahead and start talking about this. And I guess really right off the bat, we probably should talk about the elephant in the room here, and that is in fact, what the hell is going on with Jefferson Pierce? Poor guy has just been grieving for the past year, unable to really have anybody, I guess, reach out to him and make sure that he's okay. He's clearly not handling things properly, and the rest of his family has kind of really been doing their own thing. I guess I don't know if it's a situation of, they try to be there for their father or their husband for as long as they could, but clearly see that Jefferson maybe is not doing something on his part to kind of help him kind of get over this grieving process. And so maybe they kind of stepped away because he's still in his sulking mode. I don't know. It just seems as though both sides of the families at this particular point in time, you would think that maybe the Markovians being pushed out last year, maybe some of these characters would come back into the fold, that more family environment, if you will, keeping each other a little bit closer to bay, but that's not the case. Poor Jefferson is grieving right now, not sure how to handle the loss of his friend even a year after. Clearly, Lynn is still very in tune with her experimenting on the green light, I'm assuming, and if anything, metahuman abilities that we clearly see in here from Gravedigger, amping herself up with abilities from time to time. We even have Jennifer and Anissa in here who's still clearly doing their superhero thing, but maybe a little bit more unsurveillanced, I guess. But, clearly their father not being all up their ass as he certainly was in the past couple of seasons, really somebody there to kind of help them learn how to be superheroes. And now we see the two ladies kind of taking matters into their own hands when it comes to this crime fighting thing. So, if their father's going to go ahead and hang up the mantle, why not the children continue to go ahead and do what needs to be done around in Freeland? And that's something that Jefferson's not too thrilled of. I mean, listen, I can't blame blame Jefferson to a certain extent. I mean, when it comes to somebody like, say, Jennifer, she definitely has always been that type of person I felt like you need to keep a little bit of a tighter leash on. Like Jennifer just kind of goes off and does her own thing, if you will. Feels like she's more grown up than she probably really is. Like she knows more than everybody else. And that kind of mindset really does kind of put her in terrible situations, as we saw last year, always rushing into things without fully thinking things through. And I don't necessarily know if much has changed, honestly, within the past year or so, right? Like Jefferson still is clearly worried about her going off on her own, flying freely, you know, amongst everybody, whatever the case may be. Love the hairdo, by the way, when it comes to China. Really clearly going all natural hair there. It was actually a really nice change up when it comes to the Jennifer character. So really digging the natural hairstyle for Jennifer here. As you can see, I'm a bit of a connoisseur too when it comes to natural hair. Just letting it grow, be wild. You know what I mean? So no, I definitely did notice that when it comes to Jennifer. But again, the idea of maybe putting herself out there a little bit too much winds up biting her in the butt. Clearly, Lala and their men have realized that there's clearly, somebody releasing their plans early so that Thunder and Lightning wind up getting to their these particular spots, and they were certainly waiting for them this time. And Jennifer, unfortunately, does get the terrible end of that, where it seems as though it's officially kind of messed up her powers, to where at the end of this episode, when we see Jennifer plummeting to her death out of the sky, I'm wondering if is this it for Jennifer? Now, we talked about this in the as we were leading up to this season, for season 4, that China McClain did in fact state that she was leaving Black Lightning this season. That not only was the season going to be ending, but she was actually going to be in less episodes this season. So we have been trying to figure out exactly how are they going to go ahead and write Jennifer off of this show. Maybe this is the way to do it. Like, I personally can't imagine the idea of the Pierce family having had to go through everything that they did last year. Jefferson losing his friend, Lynn addicted to smack, Grace in a coma. I don't know if this family can honestly keep it together or hold it together, for that matter. If something like that were to happen to Jennifer. So I am kind of curious. It's just interesting to me that she gets hit with the blast. They take her back to what looks to be a brand new command center. Hey, it's just weird to me that we put money towards a brand new set, looking as impressive as the Arrow Cave, and then all of a sudden you're like, you know what? We're gonna cancel this show, guys. We're just not gonna renew you for season 5, even though we really put a lot of effort into season 4. Clearly, I just didn't get it. But the new hideout, pretty snazzy. But anyway, going back to Jennifer, the idea that they take Jennifer there, I'm assuming examine her because they're looking at her vital signs and things like that. And then literally by the end of the episode, she's back to flying again. Now, I know Lynn did say, wow, she seems like she's healing, rather quickly, almost like nothing happened. You would still think that you would want to keep somebody grounded, maybe do more run some more tests, make sure their abilities or their powers certainly are working properly after that. But no, they gave her the green light and she went up as high as she can, and now she's falling down as far as she can. So I don't know how this what we're going to get into when we get into episode number 2, but I'm hoping it's not just Jennifer splattered out on the ground. Maybe somebody wind up catching her. Maybe. Jefferson, where are you, man? Where are you? So we'll see what happens there in regards to that. But for me, this episode was all about Jefferson Pierce. I mean, I love just the immediate tone, the immediate vibe that this episode winds up setting. First off, great cinematography. Again, just a fantastic shot of coming in upside down and then slowly focusing on Jefferson as you get closer towards the grave. I thought it was a great intro. Salim Akil, who is the showrunner and the writer and things like that, I think he knows what he's doing, man, and he does some beautiful work as a showrunner. And so I absolutely love this first episode. Really just kind of set the tone of the tension, just the grief that Jefferson is dealing with, seeing him attack the police officers, which weirdly enough was actually rather gratifying to watch. I feel like it's what millions of people have been always wanting to do if they had superpowers, right? Like, but again, the fantastic storytelling when it comes to Black Lightning, of focusing on today's issues, not necessarily throwing it in your face, but understanding that, especially when it comes to Black Lightning, that this is their world, right? Like, this is the shit that happens on a regular basis. There's no throwing stuff into your face because they need to. Like, no, this stuff happens on a regular basis. And I just love how they incorporate all of that within today's, in today's climate and in part of their television series. The fact of this kid who clearly is not doing anything wrong, getting harassed, right? Maybe because he fits a description of somebody, and then clearly having Jefferson Pierce come by to go ahead and try and calm the situation down, let the officers know, hey, this kid he's absolutely harmless. And then again, weirdly gratifying, doing what a lot of people, I think, these days, especially at least to bad officers. Let me just clarify, to bad officers, okay? Yeah, I thought it was a great way also just to kind of set the tone as to, this is not your daddy's Black Lightning. Like, if you thought you were getting Black Lightning from seasons 1, 2, and 3, no, we're putting Jefferson Pierce on a completely different level here this episode, this season, that we've never really seen him. I mean, this guy is down in the dumps, beating himself up, and he's really got just really no holds bar when it comes to Jefferson Pierce. He's going to protect his family, just like he told Gamby in this episode, and really try not to worry about the rest of Freeland if he could possibly help it. And protect his family he did. Because Black Lightning literally went to the guy that wound up shooting Jennifer and melted his eyeballs out. I mean, he was hitting him with, like, Bruce Leroy got the glow punches in the face. They were just sparking each time he would punch this guy. I'm thinking to myself, this guy's getting his ass kicked. And then he slams him through the table and things like that, then just electrocutes his eyeballs out. Like, if you're not going to answer me as to if you're left-handed or right-handed, I'm just going to blind you so you can't shoot or see anything ever again. And it's just ruthlessness, but protecting his family like he told Gamby that he certainly was, and he's not putting up with anything. So he's put some police officers in the hospital. He's put a gang member in the hospital. This is just Jefferson Pierce unlike I've ever seen, and I'm here for it. I'm actually here for it because I'm loving the tension. I'm loving the tension. Quick honorable mention, love to see Jefferson at least back in Freeland High School. I don't know how long he's actually going to be there or if we're actually going to see him actively doing too much. But we did see him briefly in this episode as well. Speaking of Jefferson, to go along with whatever else is irking this guy, we got to talk about him and Lynn. Ever since he discovered that Lynn was in fact on green light, it's been downhill from them. I love the fact that we get the opportunity to see them in marriage counseling, which, mind you, I do believe in counseling. I think the idea of mental health is certainly important. I'm very big on mental health advocate for sure. But I definitely also agree in counseling. So I love the idea that they're at least trying to fix things between their marriage. But this is just a way to at least see all the things that they're certainly dealing with, that clearly they still have issues that they both have not sat down with each other and talked about. I love the fact that Jefferson brings up the idea that when it comes to Lynn, last time we saw her, she was in fact addicted. She's clearly lying to her therapist that she's handling her sobriety rather well, as we clearly see she's not, using these metahuman abilities and things like that. But it's also interesting to find out that she didn't go to counseling by herself. Like, the fact that instead of addressing the issue and sitting down with Jefferson, she plunged herself just right back into her work, right? Trying to distract herself, but also in that distraction, working with the one thing that is making you addicted to something, right? So she's got an addiction, and in the process of her dealing with her own addiction and experimenting with stuff, you've got Jefferson over here who clearly feels like he's obviously and completely and utterly alone. So it's just you can clearly see where that separation between these two come. And if I can be honest, a part of me misses when these two got along so great, because I've always loved their chemistry together. I always thought they were just a fantastic husband and wife, even when it was the idea of Jefferson trying to convince her to give me another shot, even though I'm putting the mantle back on and I promised you that I wouldn't, let's try and kind of make this work. I really loved that relationship between these two. And while I don't mind the tension, because of the fact that I felt like we've only really seen it in season 3, and then now here, it's still rather fresh to me. So it's not quite to the levels of Oliver and Felicity. I just don't know why I went a complete blank for a second. It's not necessarily on that level as of yet, where it's just annoying. Maybe if we got like a season 5 and it was still the same way, like 3 seasons of that stuff, yeah, then maybe. For me, I do like the tension. I am kind of curious though when it comes to Lynn, because of the fact that we saw her experimenting. We even saw her take down some bad guys, if you will, here in this episode. You know, at the end of that, she references the idea that she needs Jefferson's help. And so while I know that they are still married, aren't they? I'm trying to remember if she took off her ring or something like that and threw it at him in season 3. I can't recall off the top of my head, but regardless, when we see her at the very end trying to sit down with Jefferson and console him, you know, a part of me wants to sit here and think to myself, Lynn, thank you for making that move. You know, you guys clearly just had a really tense counseling session. The feeling of not being there for each other, right? Clearly maybe wanting to build that intimacy, right? Clearly an important part that the counselor talked about. So I thought maybe this is Lynn coming out here trying to build that intimacy a little bit, you know, open up that conversation at least to let Jefferson know I'm here for you type of thing. Leave it up to Jefferson to play the tough guy role. I'm okay. I'll be all right. And you know you're not. Just say it. Just say it, Jefferson. Like, you're so hard-headed sometimes. Like, I can see why your daughters are so frustrated with you sometimes. So I would like to see him open up a little bit more, especially to Lynn. But while my initial thought was she's coming out here to build up that intimacy and trust, I got to be honest. I feel like she's doing it to satisfy the ends to her means, or means to her ends, or whatever the case may be. I think she's maybe sucking up to her husband just a little bit in order to, you know, when it's time for her to drop the bombshell, like, hey, I really need your help with this because I've been experimenting with this stuff. Maybe it's not as painful or much of a punch in the face to Jefferson because Lynn has maybe lightened up a little bit and gotten a little bit closer to him. You know what I mean? So I feel like she's doing this with a purpose for her own end goal and not quite to get things back in line between them. You know what I mean? So we'll see. I'm hoping Lynn proves me wrong, but we'll certainly see. Speaking of Jefferson, again, also because this episode really highlighted of just the grief and the struggles that this man is dealing with, Gamby pops up in here, does get a fantastic opportunity. I can't lie. I did miss the name of the organization that this lady is from, and I did not catch her name. I just wrote down, I have no idea who this hottie is, but Gamby seems like he's a lucky man. But clearly they have worked with one another. You know, one of the speculation things that I had coming into this season was that maybe the ASA is coming back around, or another organization attached to them recognizes the work that Gamby's done and wants to put him in a position like that. So it feels like it's kind of along those lines, some sort of organization. I didn't catch the name, and unfortunately I did not catch the name of the lady, but I'm pretty sure I'll rewatch this episode once it winds up dropping, because I'm literally recording this after the episode wind up airing. So if you guys know, in the comment section, please let me know what organization, if she did name drop where she was from, but at least opens the door up for Gamby to go ahead and do other things. And I'm loving the new set pieces, the new areas that we're, messing around with. The idea of Gamby being inside of a brand new restaurant I've never seen before. We even visited the Gotham last year at the end of season 3. Makes me wonder if we're going to open up the world a little bit more here in season 4. So I thought it was cool that we saw Gamby outside of someplace else, not just the command center or his tailor shop, if you will. So I thought that was pretty neat. And maybe he'll take him up on that opportunity at some particular point in time. But yeah, we definitely have not seen the last of that lady for sure, because she seems like she's definitely going to be taking advantage of Gamby, and I guess pun intended for sure. And first off, and I also love just the conversation that we had here with Gamby and Jefferson. Like, one of the strengths for this season for me, or just the series in general, is the relationship between Gamby and Jefferson. You know, you can definitely tell that they have been in each other's lives for years, how important Gamby has been to Jefferson's life. Who, if anybody understands Jefferson, it's definitely Gamby. So I love the fact that he just has a man-to-man conversation with him, you know, letting him know that, hey, you know, your family understands the idea that you're at your lowest, that you're going to grieve and handle this hard, right? But at some point, you also have to show your family that you can get back up, that you're stronger than this, that you can overcome whatever it is that you're certainly dealing with. And so I love the fact that Gamby's trying to tell him to tread lightly, man. Tread lightly, right? Like, you being in this grieving process for yourself is just making you reckless. You're not thinking through situations straight, and we clearly see that that is coming to bite Jefferson Pierce in the butt. It doesn't matter exactly how, you know, what Gamby said he erased or covered his tracks. Clearly somebody saw that stuff before Gamby had that opportunity to certainly do that. And now we've got a brand new chief of police here in Chief Lopez, who's taking over for Henderson, now down the throat of Jefferson Pierce for what he wind up doing, not only to the police officers, but I'm assuming maybe they're trying to might even try and connect him to what Black Lightning did to Homeboy in the apartment by blinding him to death. Well, not to death, but just literally scarring this man for life and making him a handicap, if you will. So yeah, everybody's down his throat just because of the fact that Jefferson is being a little bit reckless these days. But I will say this: I am fascinated by this newcomer when it comes to Officer Hassan, I believe his name is. Henderson referred to him as Brother Hassan, but I think I didn't catch his first name, but I'm just going to call him Officer Hassan. I believe I believe Henderson, and the letter that he wound up leaving Jefferson let him know that he used to be like former Black Ops or former Ops or whatever the case may be, that regardless, Henderson trusts the guy. And I really love the conversation that he winds up having with Black Lightning. Not, you know, I'm assuming he knows that he's meeting with Black Lightning in the middle of the warehouse area. Love that conversation, and I just found it fascinating that he has that conversation with Black Lightning, but then we also see him with Chief Lopez asking Jefferson Pierce all those tough questions. You know, do you have an alibi? Where were you this day? You know, why were you around this area during the time those cops got electrocuted, type of thing, or got injured? So I'm trying to figure out, what side is he on? Should we really trust him? And I feel like maybe that's what Jefferson is also trying to figure out, is, do I trust this guy? He's clearly trying to communicate with Black Lightning. Does he also kind of think that I'm Black Lightning? So if he thinks that, yeah, he's trying to put me in jail behind bars. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I could definitely see the confusion that maybe Jefferson Pierce is experiencing here. But from what I've seen, I kind of like Hassan and just the attitude that he's kind of bringing to this season. So I want to see just what his chemistry is going to be like with Cress Williams here, aka Jefferson Pierce, and to see what kind of bond, if any, that they wind up forming here. Chief Lopez, look, I'm already not even going to be trusting Chief Lopez. Well, maybe I should trust Chief Lopez. It's the mayor, the new mayor of Freeland, that I'm not trusting because of the fact that he is, in fact, taking money from Mr. Tobias Whale himself. And Tobias is back. That's right. Coming freshly from Markovia. I guess Homeboy stayed there for about the past year or so. Just now kind of came back unexpectedly. We clearly see Jefferson wasn't expecting him. Anissa certainly was not expecting him. And considering all the information that Tobias knows about the Pierce family, yeah, this is like critical issue number one here that the whole entire family has to deal with. But it's fascinating to me, just the complete opposite sides of points of view that this whole entire family is at with one another. You know, Jefferson clearly still feeling it's not okay to kill, yet somehow Thunder, Lightning, and Lynn have all killed, which I didn't even come to consider it until I heard Jefferson Pierce mention it to Gamby, that he's seen his family change right before his very eyes. And it kind of sent a little bit of a chill down my spine when he referenced that, especially because that conversation with Gamby came after he had that conversation with his family. That's why they literally drove this man to drink, to go to the bar and have this conversation, because he couldn't believe that his own family was mentioning the idea of killing off Tobias single-handedly. I mean, look, I get Anissa's point of view to a certain extent. The idea that this guy knows who you are, he knows your secret identities. Like, he can ruin your guys' life if he wants to. Clearly trying to do so with Lynn, as we see he winds up becoming a huge benefactor towards her company in regards to her doing all the lab work and stuff. Wind up donating a couple $1,000,000, if I'm not mistaken. Winds up joining the executive board too. So he's forcing himself sort of into Lynn's life. And where Lynn's at right now in her life, I'm kind of worried. I'm not even going to lie. I'm kind of worried. Just because we clearly see the detachment from Jefferson. A part of me, we know Tobias is as cold-blooded and as smooth-talking as they come. And I'm feeling like if Lynn is at any point in her life, like, vulnerable, I feel like this is definitely one of those times for sure. But we'll see what happens. I mean, maybe Lynn is super keen and understands Tobias, right? She clearly was somebody that was advocating to kill Tobias as well. Maybe she'll find a way to either do that herself or somehow turn the tables and maybe use Tobias to maybe her benefit, to kind of get what she wants, and then winds up dropping homeboy when she's ready to, maybe turn the tides on Tobias for a change there. So Tobias is definitely back in the picture, looking as sharp and dapper, I should say, as possible, and really, again, kind of pushing this false narrative that he is reformed and like this really, really great guy. And I would just think that Freeland would probably know better by now, but clearly not. Like, I mean, as much stuff as Freeland has certainly seen Tobias do, you would think that everybody would be against this man. But you know what? You slide a couple $1,000,000 into the mayor's fund, you could probably get whatever you want to, rewrite your own history, if you will. So I did find that fascinating for sure also. Let's see here. Speaking of Tobias, we did see Lala. Really quick, brief mention for Lala. Still running the 100. Gang war still raging on in Freeland. I'm assuming maybe with this 1 year, I'm assuming Black Lightning probably hasn't been around for about a year or so. So even though you do have Thunder and Lightning around, clearly Lala still pushing his gang, not only drugs, but also metahuman weapons also, which is in fact what took Jennifer down here in this episode. Let's see here. Gave a quick shout out to the new hideout as well. Yeah, but I think that's pretty much everything that I really wanted to tackle. Only other quick honorable mention I want to talk about briefly was in fact Anissa and Grace. So last time we saw I was gonna say Anissa or Grace, they were like at each other's throats. Gravedigger had them both fighting with each other in the final episode using his mind controlling abilities, or I should say influential abilities, right? Because he can tell you what to do, and then pretty much the same powers that Lynn wind up using here in this week's episode. But whatever happened between that fight wind up putting Grace into a coma, and she's been here for the past year or so. We even see Jennifer almost trying to tell Anissa, like, look, I care about you, sis, but maybe sometimes you gotta pull the plug or just kind of, give up or just kind of leave her be type of thing. An answer that clearly Anissa's not going to be satisfied with. We do know that Chantel Twee, who plays Grace, does come back as a recurring role in this season. I hope recurring doesn't just mean I'm gonna be comatose all season. Like, no, can you wake her up soon, please, so we can get more Grace and Anissa? Like, this is the last season I get the opportunity to see them together, and if you want me to believe that these two love each other and are bound to get married, I need to see more of these two together in a relationship. I got to see them dabble with that a little bit in season 3, which I was thankful for the progress. But wake up, Grace. I'm gonna need you to wake up so we could build this relationship even more between her and Anissa, and maybe we'll wind up seeing a little bit of a wedding at the very end of this season. I love the sister team up in here. The idea that they have their own like Thundermobile. I don't know what they were driving around in, like a Hummer or a Jeep or like a Jeep Wrangler. I don't know what kind of vehicle they certainly had, but it was looking pretty sharp. Blacked out for sure. Black rims, black tinted windows. I'm just gonna call it the Thundermobile until they give me an actual name for it. Maybe an Outsider cycle. No, it's a Jeep. So maybe the Thunder Jeep. Maybe Thunder and Lightning Mobile, Thunder Jeep. I don't know. I like the Thundermobile better. But yeah, I'm really fascinated to see where the season goes, honestly. I'm hoping we don't come back to next week's episode and poor Jennifer is just sprawled out, bleeding because she fell from a couple thousand feet. I do want to see what the ramifications of this are going to be for Jennifer. I would be a little bit bummed, honestly, if they didn't give her at least some kind of development before writing her off. But, you know, we also have to remember this isn't like a 20-plus episode season, right? We're so used to Black Lightning being like 15 episodes or so. So, you know, you only have but so much storytelling to tell. And usually when it comes to the showrunners and things like that, they tend to know exactly how they want to tell their story and tell it straightforward. And so I am looking for this Jennifer situation to kind of get resolved a little bit. And no Khalil here either this week. I do know that we are supposed to be getting a Khalil-centric episode at some point. It's supposed to be the backdoor pilot for his upcoming or potential spin-off series, so hopefully it winds up getting picked up, and hopefully the episode itself is pretty good. I can't remember what episode it is this season, though. Something tells me like either 4 or 7, I feel like, but maybe I'm wrong in regards to that. But I would like to see what Khalil is up to. I'm kind of under the impression that he's kind of maybe gone his own ways. We haven't even seen any of the other younger sort of outsiders here in this episode. Was it TC? I believe the guy, the techno guy that can talk to the technology. So, yeah, he wasn't even in here either. So I'm kind of curious if they'll pop up as the season progresses. But this episode definitely felt like it wanted to focus on at least a lot of the main characters here and really just kind of catch up with everything that they're dealing with. But it feels like mostly everybody's story in some way or another kind of connected with Jefferson, just to kind of give us an idea as to really just all the stuff that Jefferson really has to kind of go through. So Cress Williams put in some work this week. I felt like almost every scene we saw had him in it to a certain extent, and so yeah, they definitely put him to work this season. But I'm pumped. I'm interested to see Jefferson Pierce sort of in this grieving mentality as of right now. This recklessness that's kind of come over him. The way that this season has been shot, it definitely feels like it's a little bit darker, a little grittier for sure. Really going to be tackling some pretty intense topics. And if this first episode is any indication, I'll be here for the remainder of the season for sure. I thought this is a great starting point for Black Lightning, and to really kind of showcase where all of our characters are at now and really how vastly different they are from where we left them off at in season 3. So I'm excited, guys. And again, at the end of the day, I definitely want to go ahead and know your thoughts. Listen, if you guys want to, feel free to go ahead and submit questions over to us for our Black Lightning reviews. I'm probably going to start trying to drop these reviews for you guys every Tuesday afternoon, most notably probably around noon or so, or 11 o'clock in the morning, 11 o'clock in the morning, or 12 noon Central Time. So definitely look out for these Black Lightning reviews every Tuesday. And if you do have any particular Black Lightning questions that you certainly want to go ahead and submit over to us, you can go ahead and do so right here at APlus Opinions, or I should say aplusopinions@gmail.com. aplusopinions@gmail.com. Feel free to go ahead and submit your questions over at any time during the week if you want to talk about what happened on the previous night's episode, or after you watch the newest episode of Black Lightning. Send your questions over immediately, and I'll go ahead and get to them as I record our shows every Tuesday night. So other than that, guys, listen, if you are looking for a home for your Black Lightning reviews, heck, maybe you already have one. Maybe you already have 2 or 3, add another one, guys. We would love to have you a part of our family here. So hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification. And of course, if you love the content, if you love our videos, do us a big favor. Hit that like button, hit that big thumbs up. It certainly goes a long way in YouTube recognizing our work and recommending it to other people. So if you want to follow us as well on social media, right here at APlus Opinions, you can find us very actively over on Facebook and Twitter, and definitely catch us over on Instagram as well. So until next time, guys, that'll certainly do it for me here. So take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and until next week, keep it A+. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.